this is Frankie Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report, and I want to talk a little bit about the police state that we're still involved in deeply. The police state that is still very existent. The censorship, the stripping of our liberties that are still out there. The government that still works within the shadows of everybody out there. I was reading this article and the guy compared it. It was pretty interesting. He said, you got Hitler's power rise, and a lot of the people around there, they said there was no need. Nazism basically was, it fulfilled everything. They fundamentally gave us everything that we had to think about. We were busy with the continuous changes that Hitler had put out there and the crises that were created, and that just basically fascinated us by the machinations of the national enemies that were within and without the Hitler Nazi society. It's like that old saying where Nero fiddled while Rome burned. And this article did a comparison. They said, is America burning? Is our national state a sense of denial that we are not in a police state? And he goes through this whole analysis, and they talk about how the American police state is essentially alive. It's thriving here in the United States, that the American dream is no longer alive, that it's dead. Is it? Is the American dream dead? Have we been lied to so much, so incessantly by the politicians, by the leaders, that we're starting to believe everything they're putting out, even though we know they're lies? Has the system not changed since Donald Trump came about? Will Donald Trump be able to stop it? Is the police state winning? And they looked at several things, and he's got some valid points. State citizen rights, they're still out there. We're still having giving the police the green light to come out, to probe us, to pinch us, to taser us, to stop and frisk us. That's something Trump is all for. They continue to corral us, to control us, and treat individuals as though they're suspects or enemies until they can prove otherwise. And that's not the way it should be. You got SWAT teams. They're still knocking and beating down doors. More than 80,000 SWAT team raids were carried out in the last year on many unsuspecting Americans who were just going around and doing basic stuff, angry dogs, domestic disputes. Stuff you wouldn't think would require a SWAT raid. You got Pentagon. He talked about the Pentagon, Homeland Security. How Obama said, we're going to stop the militarization of the police and federalization of the police, but it hasn't stopped. And the government continues to turn our United States into a battlefield. And sometimes you'll go out and think you're actually in Iraq with some of the military gear and armor that the police have. Schools. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, about the local high school, how it's a prison, how they take law enforcement in there, how it's they're basically tracking your every move. They're imposing expulsion rules upon you. They're out there with their zero tolerance. And it's gotten so bad that I actually wanted my daughter out of there, and it's been a huge fight because I went in there and I have to sign up to get my daughter out. I have to come up with a reason that the school will buy. Please. How about the private prisons? And this isn't stopping either. You got the for-profit prisons encouraging people to move forward and lock up all these individuals. The corporate-run prisons at the taxpayers' expense. And how do they profit? How do prisons profit? Lock up the people. One thing I was just watching, and it's running on my other computer here, is censorship. How a talk show host has been censored, losing about $3 million in revenue because of their some of the stuff they put out. And it actually made no sense. They just said, you're censored because we don't like stuff you put out. Never gave any specifics. And that same thing happened to me on Facebook. I still have a page, 275,000 fans. I'm still fighting with Facebook because they came in and said, we're shutting this down. What happened is I was putting out several articles about BLM. I had several of their members on there reporting all my posts, basically because they disagree with me. Facebook shut it down. They said, it's because of a name change a year and a half ago. A name change that I went through the process on, a name change that they agreed to. And I'm like, that's bullcrap. That's not why. But all they'll say back when you write them is, we have zero tolerance. You cannot turn it back on. It stays unpublished. And I hope this talk show host and many other go out and find the lawyers and give us all avenue to come after these people. And, if you look at Donald Trump with the justice system, these courts, they're dominated by technicians, by statistics, and they're differential towards authority. They have run the gamut. They suppress our free speech activities. They justify stripping searches to warrantless home invasions, a violation of many of our constitutional rights. But nobody stops them. The government bureaucrats are turning Americans into criminals because, and this was an interesting perspective of this article, and I agree 100%. They put out a ton of laws, so many laws, you're just inundated with them. You don't know when you're breaking a law. You could be crossing the street, you're breaking the law, but you don't know. And it gives them any reason to take an innocent person and lock them away if they want to. And it goes through with a lot of this. How about the surveillance? You can't walk through a store. You can't drive your car. You can't go anywhere without some type of government agency, some kind of fusion center, basically tracking your every move. Even on tracking on surveillance at the corporate level. You'll go into Facebook. Not even going to Facebook. We did this test when I was doing my radio show, and we were talking about products and with our iPhones there. Next thing you know, when we go in and we search, those products are pulling up because it's listening to you. You got the issue that just happened last night with TSA. You got this TSA group. They can go out there and they go beyond airports now. They're in telecommunications, they're in mass transit, roads, everywhere. And they can go through and do security sweeps. Yet these same idiots just let 11 people walk through the line in New York yesterday. You got Border Patrol. This article didn't even touch on that, but Border Patrol can go within 100 miles of the border. And essentially, all Florida is within their control. They can stop you and ask you to prove you're a citizen. Really? You got draconian laws out there. The Patriot Act, the NDAA, and it's all for our safety. But they're stripping the constitutional rights of American citizens. Every day they're taking away more. And these sheep are saying, oh, it's fine. It's for my safety. I'm good with it. If you go out there, you got and they talked about Department of Homeland Security, how they have wasteful, growing fear-mongering out there with detention camps, and there are detention camps. I forget what the actual name is, but they're FEMA camps, and they name them something else. So when we say FEMA camps, they say, oh, we never said that. That's a conspiracy. Man, I should have got the name of it. I'll try to put it out there later. Stingray devices. They use it at Sarasota Police. They never came up until an investigation was done into it. Sorry, I got distracted with the text. The military-industrial complex. I was just talking about this, how we're out there promoting these wars. I think I ran yesterday. I talked extensively about it, where we're out there and we sold Syria $1.5 billion. Qatar, Trump just agreed to armory there. But Obama just sold a ton of weaponry to Kenya on his last day. And it's all for that $15 billion a month military-industrial complex. The shadow government, which we're seeing more and more ever since Trump was nominated. I've always heard, I've always known, I've always studied the shadow government. You never realize the depth of it until lately with Obama or Trump getting into there as a president. And we have to, as Americans, we have to stop being so blind. We have to stop being so gullible. We have to stop this partisan devotion to these political gods out there and believe that they're out there just to help us. We have to stop being so trusting with them. And what we have done is we failed to recognize the warning signals out there, that the potential red flags that are out there. We don't ask questions. We don't demand answers from our government. And somebody said this best today. Who was it? I was listening to a talk show. I can't remember. Oh, it was Ted Nugent yesterday. He came on, he said, the government are our employees. They're our employees. And he said it over and over. He said, they're not these great stars, these people that should be respected. They're people that were hired from us to go out and do a job, and we need to hold them accountable. If your elected officials don't know who you are because you're not annoying them, then you're not doing your right as a citizen. And I can tell you, just about everybody in this county that's a politician knows who I am. And so what we have is we have free people. that allow these government bureaucrats to come in and take our freedoms, take our security, and impose tyranny upon us. And this is what happens when you fail to challenge the injustice that the injustice that's being put out there, and the government's overreach into our lives. And then you get this police state, the police state that now surrounds us, the lack of due process, the lack of rights. You're guilty until proven innocent. And this article went on and basically just compared it to how Germany was when it all got started under Nazism. What say you? Is there a police state? And what can we do? This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.